Hey there, Liz. It's been a while. Kind of fell off the earth there for a minute. Something I do, I guess. Since I last made a video, slash, since I last talked to you, I've actually moved home to try and, get my life together and see if I can't make a go of this adult thing. So far, it's not going so well, but I'm alive and relatively healthy, so I guess that's a plus. Also, P.S. Sorry for the horrible lighting. I just really don't have a good place except for my room to make videos, and the lighting in here is just screwy. So I look all washed out. Plus, I don't have a great camera, so I just apologize for the general lack of quality. Anyway, the other day I got sucked down a YouTube vortex, which is something that happens quite often to me, usually in a certain genre of video. So, I'll start watching all my favorite moments of Veronica Mars, and then I'll just, next thing I know, I'm, watching millions of Kristen Bell interviews and all that jazz. And also, it also happens with me with WatchMojo.com videos. They have, a gazillion of them, and I will watch one, and then suddenly, all the recommended videos, I want to watch them, so I open a bunch of tabs, and then, anyway, it just goes crazy, and WatchMojo does a lot of stuff with movies, and, stuff like that, and one that I watched last night kind of just got to me, and not necessarily in a good way. I'm just gonna preface the rest of this video with the caveat that I am super biased when it comes to this topic, so take it with a grain of salt, but also agree with me. So, yeah. Now, the WatchMojo.com video's title was Gandalf versus Dumbledore, and the video came down pretty intensely on the side of Gandalf winning between the two of them. And I'm not saying in a fight, but just overall Gandalf wins. And I really disagree with this point. And it's kind of there's so many reasons why I disagree with it. And I'm going to try and articulate them to you, and in order to appease my feelings and hopefully win at least one person to my side in this debate. Unless you're already on my side, in which case I'll just solidify your already correct position. So, now I have read the Lord of the Rings trilogy, The Hobbit, and part of the Silmarillion, as well as having seen the movies a gazillion and a half times. So I feel even though I'm not an expert, and doing all those things is just scratching the surface of Tolkien, but I feel I can speak somewhat to Gandalf as a character in a somewhat knowledgeable way, instead of just coming from outside of the whole thing. So, Gandalf comes from a world that is incredibly complex and has backstories for everybody and front stories for everybody, and just everything is so well thought out, and the world is just intricate and amazing, and it's just the world building in those novels is amazing, and I will give you that all day. It's way more complex than the Harry Potter universe. Dumbledore's universe is very is pretty much our own, except for added wizards, and that's what a lot of people point to when they say Gandalf is better, because he comes from a much more complex world. However, I would argue that he is not even half as complex as Dumbledore is as a character. And part of the problem that I have with these comparisons between the two of them is that they can often, almost always, confuse epicness with greatness. And I'll give you, Gandalf is a way more epic character than Dumbledore will ever be. He saves the entire world from, the essence of evil, and he, fights the Balrog for a millennia on top of the tallest, deepest mountain, something. It was really confusing. But, I feel Dumbledore has a lot more to him. He's a lot more of a complex character with more character growth, and you can learn more from him than you can from Gandalf. Now, as far as I understand, Gandalf isn't so much a wizard as he is a demigod who's almost all-powerful and super knowledgeable, and kind of can't die, and as far as I know, he was sent to Middle-earth to get rid of Sauron, to help Middle-earth, like, battle him and make sure he doesn't ruin Middle-earth. And throughout all of his investigations and knowledge gaining and everything, as far as I know, he doesn't really make a mistake. He's very much, like, in charge, and he always knows what he wants to do. There are very few times where he's taken aback. He kind of already knows what's going on, and that doesn't make him very human. He's not a very, like, complex character because of that, because he's very much has one purpose, and that's what he goes about fulfilling. He doesn't really grow or have any sort of real heft to him. He's just like this all-powerful, all-knowing person in the stories. Dumbledore, however, is a completely different story. Now, as an aside, I have read all of the Harry Potter books multiple times, and I've seen the movies all at least once, except for 7 Part 1, just because I didn't want to put myself through that whole ordeal. And also, I haven't really gotten into Pottermore very much, so my understanding of Dumbledore could be off because of that. There's a lot of things that are in Pottermore that might, like, go against what I think of Dumbledore, or might further it, or I don't know. So just keep that in mind as I go about talking about Dumbledore here. Elphias Dodge, one of Dumbledore's greatest friends, said in his obituary, "Albus Dumbledore was never proud or vain. He could find something to value in anyone, however apparently insignificant or wretched, and I believe that his early losses endowed him with a great humanity and sympathy. I shall miss his friendship more than I can say, but my losses as nothing compared to the wizarding world. That he was the most inspiring and best loved of all Hogwarts headmasters cannot be in question." Now, I think this quote kind of gets to what people usually think of Dumbledore, which is like this mostly perfect wizard who is super powerful and super knowledgeable and is kind of running things, and who was kind of one-dimensional. Even though he did suffer losses earlier in his life, he has overcome them and is now this great person. And I think that's like a really shallow view of what Dumbledore actually is. Now, while Dumbledore was certainly clever and powerful and kind, he was also very ambitious and desired power, and this desire led him to ally himself, at least temporarily, with a dark wizard Grindelwald, and through this alliance, his sister was killed, and this haunted Dumbledore to the point where he punished himself for the rest of his life by hiding away from power and by doing his best to eradicate that from his history. And so that is just one way in which he isn't a perfect person. He made mistakes, especially younger in life. Dumbledore's mistakes later in life are less outright mistakes and more decisions that carry heavy consequences with them that, while mostly positive in nature, also have definite negative sides that make it way more complex to think about. These decisions are as small as ones to hire Professor Trelawney to protect her and the secret of the prophecy she had, but the consequence of that is inflicting her upon years of students at Hogwarts. The same goes for Snape. He keeps Snape as a potions professor, even though he is a blatant, just basically awful person, just to have that safeguard there in case Voldemort ever comes back. So he has a double agent built in there. Arguably, Dumbledore's most questionable decision is the decision to keep Harry Potter in the dark about everything that's going on through most of his time at Hogwarts. And even when he does tell him things, he doesn't tell him the whole story, especially that Dumbledore knows, that pretty much has known since Harry's parents were killed, that Harry is a Horcrux. And he decides to keep this to himself, probably for a multitude of reasons, but I think one of them, a large one, is that he still likes having power. He still likes knowing more than other people and having that like under his jurisdiction, so he has power over the situation, so others can't control it for him. There's other reasons, of course. He wanted to make sure that Harry Potter was able to do what he needed to do, which was die, in order to kill that part of Voldemort, and he wanted Harry to be the kind of person who would do that. And he was afraid that if he just told Harry Potter that right off, that Harry wouldn't be in a place to be able to sacrifice himself for the wizarding and Muggle world as well. Now, some people would say that the things I just said about Dumbledore are what makes him less great than Gandalf. But to them I would ask the question, what is the purpose of these characters? Like, why do we care about them? If the purpose of these characters is to be entertaining, then perhaps those who think Gandalf is greater have a point. I don't necessarily agree with it because I don't find Gandalf to be an intriguing character, but he is epic, and he's in an epic story, and he's in an epic world, and so I see where people are coming from with that. If, however, the point of literature is to make us better ourselves and to improve the world and to make us think more complexly, I think the better character is Dumbledore, because he is eminently human. He makes mistakes, he does things for selfish reasons, he makes hard decisions that hurt people, and I think that if we take that into our lives, we see that we don't have to be perfect to make a positive change in the world. Dumbledore saved the wizarding world, and possibly the Muggle one as well, and he had a positive impact on the people around him, even though he wasn't perfect. And I think with Gandalf we don't see that. He kind of was a perfect character, and so there wasn't very much to learn from him as far as that goes. So that's why I personally think Dumbledore is a greater character. Less epic, but a greater character. And yeah, that's my video. Sorry it got so long. I just had a lot to say on the topic. I hope you have a great day, and I think I might even see you this weekend, so check with you later.